Hey everyone, and welcome back to another live Thursday night episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here at the Smokin' Studios. Thank you so much for joining us again. Got a great guest this week, good friend of the show, Jarrid Trudeau over at Kristoff. We're going to be talking about the brand new 20th anniversary cigar that they have. Very excited. I these guys do this perfecto shape amazing. When Glenn Case put out his cigar with this, I bought a box. I have never had a problem with this shape from Kristoff. I only can speak for myself, but I've run into a lot of other problems with this shape. I had to do it when I saw it in the perfecto shape that I knew it was going to smoke perfectly and draw super clean. So, uh, before we bring everybody in the show here, I say bring everybody. We've got Jarrid, but again, he's more popular than me, and nobody watches the show to listen to me ramble on. But you're gonna to for a little bit right now. So big shout out to all the sponsors that make this show remotely possible. We have BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Kristoff Cigars. As this is a sponsored episode, only the Kristoff banner will be shown at the bottom of the show tonight. But still, big shout outs to everybody before we bring on the guests. So, Sagrado Cigars, Micallef Cigars, Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco, La Aurora Cigars, West Tampa Tobacco, Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, as well as Axe in the Oak. Tonight, I am going to be drinking the regular bourbon. I'm not going to go with the rye because I'm not expecting this to be a super strong peppery cigar because that's really not Kristoff's way. I'm expecting a full flavor, medium body cigar out of this. So I'm going to go with the regular bourbon, and we can see if I'm right when we bring Jarrid on. Um, so for any of you that are going to be in the Colorado area, Kristoff will be one of the sponsors of this event, and I'm looking so forward to it. Hopefully, either Jarrid or Glenn can make it this year. But jump over to eventbrite.com and search the Rocky Mountain Cigar Night. This year, we're going to have it at Salt in the Acres, which is a vineyard up in Fort Lupton. It's going to be benefiting the Shadow Warriors Project again this year, and it's going to be on Friday, July 26th. And it's going to be a 4-hour event from 6 to 10. This is not a dinner. However, with the $150 price per person for the ticket, it's going to include appetizers, open bar, soft drinks like soda, coffee. We're doing complimentary cigars again. Last year, with the help of Kristoff, we were able to give away 9 cigars. This year, we're hoping to giveaway at a minimum of 5. We have a brand new redesigned challenge coin, and I am so excited to show everybody this thing. This is honestly one of the most beautiful coins I've seen. Thank you so much, Jerome Berry, for making it for us. Live music and live and silent auction. So if you can scan the barcode or the QR code there in the corner of your screen. If not, jump over to eventbrite.com. Tickets are going very, very fast. We are going to be presenting a dog this year to the vet. Last year, we were able to raise 30 grand to give a dog to a wounded vet through the Shadow Warriors Project. And this year, we're going to be presenting it to them. We've also got a lot of other things we are hoping to pull off as well that we're not going to talk about right now because we're cutting into Jarrid's time. And let me tell you, this guy, when you talk to him on the phone, you've got to have everything written out. It's got to be in detail. He's going to quiz you and make sure you're not wasting his time. So if I don't bring him on right now, I know I'm going to get cussed out. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
What's happening?
Not too much, man. Not too much. So how have things been since the last time you came on?
Good, good. Really, really busy. We had PCA obviously, which was really big for us because we released a bunch of new stuff, PCA signature and the 20th anniversary. And then we're fresh off of the Nicaragua, the Tres Compadres, the guardrail. So we have a lot of new stuff going on. Plus, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later, but the repackaging. of everything. Something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we are super, super busy. I was telling you before the show, I I've been in Teams hell, Zoom hell for the last couple of weeks, just trying to get everything organized. And no, we're doing really good. We had a great show. Everybody's happy. So uh, yeah, yeah, it's been busy though.
Good, 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 good. So let's start back at what you guys released with PCA this year, since we haven't had you on, and what I am holding right now in my hand. So what I'd like to do is do the only actual segment that we do on the show. This is sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, but it is the "What are you smoking tonight?" So this is what I am smoking tonight. Jarrid, can you please explain to everybody what this beautiful Perfecto is?
So that is our Venti. So it's the 20th anniversary project that we went. This year is our 20th anniversary, obviously, and so we wanted to do something really special. And this is a blend that we've been working on for quite some time. Um, it originated as like we went down for some blending work, and me and Glenn and Ward were sitting there, and our one of our factory our production supervisor like the factory supervisor, he came up to us and he was really excited about some tobaccos that he had been able to buy in kind of limited quantities, and we are like, oh, what were they? And he bought some Pennsylvania broadleaf, which is an unusual tobacco, and some really, really nice. It's not high priming enough to be used for a lot, but it was good enough to be used as a binder. It was like perfect. It was like really, really high quality. So we ended up doing our Brazilian Maduro, the Arapiraca Brazilian Maduro, that kind of brought us to the dance, right, with the original Maduro and stuff. And we figured it'd be fitting to use that in the 20th anniversary. And then an Indonesian broadleaf binder. And then there's Nicaraguan fillers, Nicaraguan Ligero, and then there's also Pennsylvania broadleaf in the filler, which is kind of unusual. So it is medium bodied, balanced. It has some sweetness to it. It's a little bit drier than you would expect a Maduro to be, so I like that a lot on my palate. But super rich, super that those like natural sweetness, and then yeah, it's just a really balanced, really interesting cigar, and it's kind of we're referring to it as the F blend, like the Frankenstein blend, when we started working on it and putting it together. So yeah, really good. We're really, really proud of it.
Well, first time me having it, really good so far. Again, you guys are really the only company. I said this at the beginning. I'm sure you heard me flub it up. You guys are really the only company I trust with this size. Shape sizes to me, real quick. Thank you so much, Steve, for sponsoring the "What Are You Smoking Tonight" segment. Okay. Shape cigars for me are so tough in the sense that it is really hit or miss. Now, one of the reasons why I love going with you guys for this is because I know Glenn loves this size.
Oh yeah.
So when the owner loves the size is usually rolled great all the time. It's just like with Lanceros. I usually go with those where the owners or the people in the company really are Lancero people because I know they're going to be rolled great. You guys always do a fantastic job with this Perfecto. Um, can you just? I've always wondered this. Why it seems like all your higher end stuff has a Perfecto shape to it, and it's
Well,
primarily this.
for for us, it started kind of like with the 685 Woodlawn
Hmm.
when we came out with that 60 gauge Perfecto. It was an interesting size. You didn't see a lot of it out there in the market, and then we were really, really excited about that project. We used interesting tobaccos, and it just felt really special, that size, like very celebratory, very special to us. And so, also, we have some excellent, excellent rollers. We have two pairs that do the Perfectos for us, and that's it. Um, and they've been consistent, and they've been with us for a really long time. They roll every Woodlawn, every Vengeance Perfecto, every and all of these. So having all of that together, and the fact that it's a really special, interesting size, makes it really. And like you said, the construction is sick. Like you can smoke a Vengeance Perfecto and you can smoke it to the band if you are being a nerd and like keeping the ash on and stuff. And it stacks perfectly. I mean, it's just a really well constructed cigar. And because we bunch everything into bar, including the Perfectos and the like Figurados that have like a torpedo and stuff like that, because we maintain our bunching strategy through that, it just makes the air move really easily through an otherwise difficult to draw cigar. So yeah, there's a lot of user error with Perfectos. People either overcut it and the wrapper comes off, or they undercut it and the draw is bad. So this kind of makes it so that as long as you don't screw up too bad, it's pretty forgiving for a nerd size, you know.
And you know what? So to your point, when it comes to shape stuff like this, I have a tendency to go V cut, just because I
Mhm.
know it usually will never cut below anything to damage anything. But it's always funny when you do see the guy that does the slanted cut and they bring it like all the way down here. It just kind of poofs
Yeah.
out. But no, I'm always a big fan of this, and you know, just like John said, anytime I can get a size like this, for from you guys, and I see it in the shop, and I go for a crystal, I always go with this size,
Yeah.
and 100% of the time, I always go with Toro,
Yeah.
with anything else. So, but yeah, I just kudos to you guys because I've not had one that really I don't think is smoked good. I mean, hasn't smoked good, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about how the world has accepted your latest releases because you've had several in the last little bit. You brought them up. So let's kind of start with the Trace Compadres. How has that one been accepted? Because this, I think, outside of the Woodlawn, is one of the first cigars that you guys have done without the actual tobacco name on the cigar, like
Yeah.
Maduro, Sumatra.
Yep.
So
That's
that
true.
might have thrown off a little bit of the clientele.
The branding
Um,
is also very different.
very non Kristoff esque.
Yeah, it's very very interesting. This is like again, and we can get into it whenever, but like we're working on redesigning the line.
Mhm.
The You can count kind of if you think about the cigar business, like kind of colloquially, like you can count on a couple of fingers how many companies haven't redesigned or repackaged in 20
Sure.
years, and we are unfortunately have been one of them. You know, and so we had this really rustic, elegant, interesting kind of packaging, which now, when it came out, it was interesting with the loose tobacco around it, and it looked presented really pretty. And especially when the cigars were uncellowed, because we use so much like that Brazilian Maduro and stuff like that. It's really toothy, it's really oily, it's really rich, and it presented really well uncellowed. And then as the business has kind of evolved now it kind of just looks like brown boxes with brown writing stuffed with tobacco plants. Yeah, tobacco leaves, you know. So it gets, and the font is a little bit too small, and it just gets a little bit muddy. And so we wanted to take this opportunity. We're celebrating 20 years, and we sell a lot of cigars. We're in 56 countries. I mean, it's a much different business than it was when we first came up,
Mhm.
when Glenn first came up with the packaging.
Well,
Um,
fuck, when you first came on.
or yeah, it's much different than even when I came on, and Glenn was doing it for a million years before me. So yeah, it's really cool to see this next evolution. And Glenn is doing like an unbelievable job getting into, his favorite stuff, which is the design work and the blending and like the artistry behind the whole thing, So he's really taking the bull by the horns and is running with all this stuff, and it's really cool to see what he's able to come up with, and makes us really excited as a company to see the direction that we're going. And the Trace
So
Compadres is the first evolution of that.
yeah, yeah, and are people? Have you found if people are like, hey, asking you guys a little bit more about what it is because it's not on the band anymore? Are you getting like people going,
Um,
whoa, is this Kristoff or is this something else?
well, that's the real challenge in design, right? You need to make it different enough to separate yourself and get people excited about it, but it needs to be similar enough to where it's identifiable with the branding that you've been pushing for 20 years, right? So it's a challenge for sure, and that's why it's good that Glenn's working on it and handling it himself, because this that problem does come up. But if you think about it, how many cigars are called the Edición Limitada left-handed baseball glove, blah blah blah. So there's so many cigars that their name has absolutely nothing to do with what they are. So I don't think consumers are that off put by the idea that we've traditionally been pretty uh, standardized in the way that we name cigars. Our Connecticut's the Connecticut, right? Our Cameroon's
Oh
the
yeah,
Cameroon.
for sure.
So that's been very clear. It's very shoppable. It's very sellable. But the idea of doing cooler projects, plus the Tres Compadres, is a really, really important project for us, and it has a lot of sentimental value, and it's just a different type of crack at a project than we've traditionally taken.
But it's still in the band, though. It still has that Kristoff feel to it, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's just not what somebody would normally expect, where they see the, Maduro or Sumatra or stuff like that.
Right.
But no, I love it, man. I think that's a lot of fun. And so what has been redesigning like for you to go through? Because in some kind of way, Kristoff is your baby too. Like, you grew this thing with Glenn a lot of the way to where it is now for the last, I don't know how many years you've been there in total, but a long time now. So what is this like for you to kind of, are you excited for this? Are you gonna, is this kind of like a turning the page moment for you, or
Um,
does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, it does. I'm really excited. It's it's really cool to see an evolution of something that you've given so much of your life to. It'll be over 10 years after this year, and for me with Kristoff, and I've seen every project, every evolution of it. I've been involved in almost all of it, and um, it is just really cool to have something to sink your teeth into, a project as ambitious as this redesign stuff. And most importantly, like with the Trace Compadres specifically, um, doing a project with more of a story um, has just been really, really impactful. I think for me as a person, for us as a team, I know it has been for Glenn and Ward and the rest of the management team. So it's this Trace Compadres, and I told the story last time that I was on, but
Yeah.
it's commemorating two people that were really, really important to the brand. Glenn's best friend for a million years, Chuck Finch, who I remember coming to trade shows and helping us set up booths back in the day before we had a booth building company, and was just always around, and was just, God knows the value that he added for Glenn, having somebody to bounce ideas off of and stuff like that over the years, over 20 years. And
There you
then
go.
that's Chuck.
Yeah.
And then in the middle there, that's Rolando Villamil. That's the RV that you see in the medallion on the band. And Rolando has made every Kristoff cigar since the company started. Glenn met Rolando in Chicago before we had a cigar company, and they've been best of friends ever since. And Rolando has just been a steadfast mentor and sounding board for us over the years. And both of these guys, unfortunately, have passed away over the last few years. And this cigar was our way of thanking them and being able to tell their story on a wider, and how important they were to the brand. So this was really, really special for us, coming out with a project with a story like this. And it's obviously extremely important given the people that it represents.
So I hope everybody could see, but if you haven't seen the band yet, so there's the initials, the CF, the GC, and the RV for each one. And you can see each name is on each side, that their name is on. So it's a great project. It's a great cigar. You were so kind as to let me try one last year at Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest. So I appreciate that. It's a very, very good cigar. Again, classic. Kristoff presentation in the box, though. Really clean, really slick, really elegant looking. And I like it. I really like it. 93 rated. So this one's selling well. The world's accepting this well.
It's selling really well. We got the number 4 cigar of the year on the Half Wheel Top 25
Mm-hmm.
list, which is big. And then the ratings are starting to come in now. So we're really, really happy.
Fantastic. And then now we have this one. And just so you guys can actually see it, I want to show you a little bit better than what maybe I can. This is also a really classy band for the 20th. Now, this is obviously using the very classic Kristoff look in this band. So why not start with a redesign on the 20th? Why leave the 20th kind of that original Kristoff styling?
Well, we're celebrating 20 years of that branding strategy, and I do think this still looks different. I think it's classier, it's more elegant, and we've done a lot of stuff with the die cut and the two different bands and stuff. So we did try to differentiate it from the rest of the portfolio, make it look a little bit more special, because it's a special cigar. It's an interesting blend, and it's something that we haven't been able to offer before in that kind of like big celebratory kind of more expensive project. And it's still not we are not pigs at Kristoff. Nothing we make is exorbitantly expensive. So I think the MSRP on this is $15 or something like that, and it's for some of the anniversary projects we've seen coming out. That's pretty. That's a pretty fair bite at the apple.
Even with Colorado prices, that's still a
Yeah,
very, very low priced anniversary cigar from what we've seen the last.
yeah, that's a pretty fair bite at the apple, I think, from us. So, it's this is a really important project, and we've redesigned our swag and a lot of our event materials and stuff to feature the 20th anniversary, and it should be every store that carries it should have it in 3 sizes. And it's just a special cigar. It's very good, and I think it stands up to the price.
I'm not disappointed. So here in Colorado, guys, I bought this from 3Ds. I actually went down to the new 3Ds. They say hi to Chris was his name. Says hi, Jarrid.
Good guy.
And really great guy. Really, really nice facility. Holy cow. I wish it was closer. I mean, it's a good distance. It's about 35 minutes, 40 minutes for me on the opposite end of the Springs. Really nice. But even at $21, I think I paid for this. Now that's because of Colorado taxes, guys. It's not manufacturer's faults. I'm really happy with this.
Yeah.
I even at 21, this is amazing. It's
Yeah.
smoking great. It's got a really full, rich flavor to it, really nice complexity in the profile. And that classic full body, but not burn your nose in the retro or anything like that. So I got to ask you, do you inhale this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I do every. I do. I can't not. I can't not do it anymore. It's like second nature now. So
I couldn't do it, man. I accidentally did it a few days ago, just not thinking twice about it, and it still gets me every single time. So,
mhm.
but so what else do we have coming out with Kristoff the rest of the year? Any other big projects you want to talk about, or anything coming into play for next year you can tease about?
No, I mean, we kicked our own ass this year with the PCA signature that we did, which is a box press pissed off, which is
Yep.
really, really good. And then the 20th anniversary is a huge priority for us. Plus, we're off a year where we released another 3 new SKUs between last year's PCA, the Tres Compadres, and the Nicaragua. And then the guardrail is still only a couple of years old. So we we had several many years, over the years where we didn't release anything crazy because, you think during COVID and stuff like that. I mean, we just couldn't ask retailers to grow with us by expanding, too much. It's, pigs eat and hogs get slaughtered. We can't throw 20, we can't throw two new SKUs every year at everybody and expect them to jump into it. So that's one of the things that was really important for us, was to be fair in the way, and make sure we have something. We don't want to come out with something just to come out with something. We want to make sure we have something cool. And that's what we've done the last couple of years. So we've got plenty to work on. We got plenty to work on this year already.
So how was PCA overall? What I'm asking is what were your thoughts on it this year? And are you looking forward to New Orleans? I think it is next year.
Yeah.
And what was the show like in your opinion?
I thought the show was really good this year. And not only by the numbers, but by the PCA numbers. I'm on the board of directors for PCA, and being able to see kind of the input output of the show and the attendance numbers going up. And I mean, the show was really well attended. The feedback was really good. We did a lot of cool stuff between the Best of the Leaf and awards program, and did a lot of stuff to engage the retail base. And so PCA as a whole, I think, was really, really good. For Kristoff, it was excellent. I mean, we had one fewer day to sell. We did the same business we did last year in July, a little bit more even. So that's about as much as we could hope for, given the fact that, retailers had much less time to prepare, much less time to budget. And it was coming off of a slower time of year for the retailer. So I think it'll just continue to get better being earlier in the year as retailers start to figure out their budgeting, and the buying cycle adjusts. So yeah, it was really good.
What are you looking forward to next year in New Orleans? Or do you think that's going to have the same turnout, feel, atmosphere?
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, PCA is doing a lot of really cool stuff, in terms of having one of the pieces of feedback from past New Orleans shows was that there was never really anywhere like the Circle Bar at Venetian or whatever. There was never really any central area where the industry could get together. And PCA is going to have several options, I believe, at this New Orleans trade show, where everybody can be together in the same place smoking. So I think that's going to be really encouraging. I think we'll get a different segment of the retail population. People from the South, it's a lot easier for them to get there. And the weather in New Orleans is way better that time of year than it is in July, when the trade show traditionally has been. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really good show. And I think no matter what happens this year with the trade show, I think people are going to hear about all the cool stuff that's happened and how much nicer it is there than what people remember from previous trade shows in New Orleans. And I think people are going to be really impressed with what comes out.
Well, I'm encouraged. I still think I'm one of those people that I still think it should be in Florida. Just overall, just because that is the mecca of everything cigars,
You,
in this
yeah,
country.
you'd think. I mean, if you knew how many site visits, I mean, more than a dozen site visits to different cities, more than 15 site visits to different cities. Um, you've got to think. I mean, we've got to book X tens of thousands of room nights, right? Nights, not rooms. Plus, the convention hall has to be big enough to where a lot of companies, their booth is about as small as they could get away with it being. Are there exceptions? For sure. But a lot of those companies don't want to budge in terms of, their booth size so that we could fit into a smaller exhibit hall.
Sure.
Some of these exhibit halls, in order to accommodate a show the size of ours, would have to split us between multiple halls, which again kind of disenfranchises the
Yes.
industry. Plus, not having hotels that are commutable or walkable from the venue is a problem as well. Getting everybody together, weather, if we were to do tents like we did in Orlando back in the day, and it's 1,000,000 degrees, and it rains or there's a storm, like, well, there's just too many variables. And also, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of these cities that you would think would be like, yeah, we'd love to have a cigar convention here, we're super smoking friendly
No.
and stuff. No, they don't want us. They don't want us. So it's very difficult to find places that are willing to accommodate us in a meaningful way. And you know, if every single person who had some grand idea for where the trade show should be knew how much work went into finding, there's nobody that wants more options than PCA. Trust me.
Come on,
So
come on, Jarrid. I have the grandest of ideas. It should just be in Miami. I can make that happen. I'll do a few phone calls.
all right, yeah, make a couple calls. See what happens. Yeah.
No, I think that's I'm glad to hear that PCA was good for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I do have a question though, because I feel like everybody says, "Oh, it's such a great show every year." So I'm curious, like what was the difference between this show and last show for you guys? Like was it almost statistically the same, or did you bring on more company or more shops this year, sell more cigars? Like what's more important at the PCA for you guys? Shops or cigars?
Um, it's always reaching more stores. Really, if you could pick a key metric to determine the the success of some trade shows, it would be penetration, like how many stores you're in every market, how many new accounts you get. You can often predict what the comp numbers look like for a trade show based on the number of new accounts you get without even looking at the actual gross. So we are always focusing on new accounts and trying to grow that. But you know what? As the supply chain kind of shrinks up and production gets difficult and back orders become a problem, we also have to make sure that we're prioritizing the people that do business with us now. So that's why, like I said, not coming out with 5 new SKUs a year and not trying to, not trying to do addition for addition's sake, making sure you have something that's worth talking about when you do come out with a new project. That's why all those things are important. So, the biggest difference between last year and this year was the condensed time period. So we had 3 days of selling instead of 3.5 or whatever it's traditionally been. So that was the biggest thing, was we were slammed every day. Whereas usually on the half day or at the end of the third day, it kind of slows down. People go home a day early or whatever. So no, we were busy and every day was a productive day. So that was good to see.
So if you had 20 shops running 100,000 cigars, would you prefer 30 shops running 100,000 cigars? And I guess the question is, what would you rather have? The higher cigar amount sold, or the bigger penetration with the equal amount of cigars?
I think
Does that make sense?
it does. Yeah. I think, the 80-20 rule in sales is kind of gospel, right? So 20% of your accounts do 80% of your business. But those really, really strong moving accounts, very often they have every SKU that you sell or close to it, or every SKU that's productive for them to sell. And you can't grow by going into a store. If a store has 40 facings of Kristoff and you go in there and say, man, we really got to figure it out. They're like, bro, we figured it out about as good as we can figure it out. Like, we've got to come up with another way to increase inventory turns and to sell more cigars. So again, it's about not being a pig. So if you have more stores that do the same volume than fewer stores, it gives you more bites at the apple. You never know who you can be important to. In this business, you treat everybody the same. You treat everybody respectfully. Give them everybody that you can great service and consistent in stocks. And the cigars, you have more chances to be more important to more people, and that's how you grow. So I always value the opportunity to have my reps work with new accounts and old accounts, because they can take everything that they've learned and make that and implement it in stores that might need more help and more support. So I'm happy with how it comes out kind of either way. If we grow with our big guys, then that's always a goal for us, and we spend a lot of energy on that. But if we can pick up a couple stores and add value for them, then I would love to do that too. So we kind of take it as it comes.
So what's Kristoff's mentality around stocking a store? And what I mean is, because you guys do have you guys do have a good amount of SKUs. Obviously, it's hard for necessarily every shop owner to carry every SKU. So, what is y'all's approach to actually helping a store owner stock the SKUs with it? Because I mean that is key with as many SKUs as you guys have, which isn't nearly as many as some. I mean, by any drastic
Yeah.
amount, that's for sure. Some of them come out with 15 new lines a year. It seems like. So, what do you got? How do you guys help your retailer pick the right cigars?
So we have planograms that we've come up with that reflect, for example, 8, 12, 16, 20 SKUs that are all curated by us to reflect the best selling lines and sizes in those lines. So based on the floor plan that we get from the store, if they say we can give you 8 SKUs, we can give you whatever, 16 SKUs, whatever, we can start there. Then you factor in the new product, what their customers' tastes are, things like that. And you do addition by subtraction. You remove some stuff that they don't think would sell, or stuff that they, oh, we sell this really, really well already. We have a great relationship with this company. We don't want to cannibalize that. Okay, well, let's move in a different direction then, and let's try to get something that your customers might be missing. So yeah, that's kind of how we try to set up an assortment in a store. We take direction from the retailer, and we use our kind of curated planograms to make decisions around it.
And that's kind of the beauty of having the SKUs that you have, is because you do have one for almost every single pallet out there, if
Yeah,
not literally for every single pallet. Certainly for if somebody likes a Sumatra wrapper, a Connecticut, a Criollo, Cabernet. I mean, you have all of these. So that definitely makes it easier to do that curation, because you can maybe, if a shop doesn't have a lot of Sumatra, they're asking for more. Yours is literally clearly labeled Sumatra. It's really
yeah,
easy to understand. So that that definitely has to help kind of curate clientele's taste throughout the world in 56 different countries.
yeah, yeah. And it also helps if you're a newer store and you might have a staff that isn't as knowledgeable as they are going to be in 6 months, for example.
Mm-hmm.
A customer comes in and says, "I really like San Andres." Well, if you just walk over to Kristoff, it's going to be called the San Andres.
Exactly.
You can instantly validate their whatever their suggestion was and seem like an expert. So it's a really sellable, easy to sell line, Kristoff. So and that's what we try to keep doing. We try to just kind of be the people want to do business with, and make our cigars as approachable and sellable as we can.
And you certainly do it. Richard asks, do you have a minimum order limit?
No, no, we don't, Richard. I'll kind of share an anecdote from back when I worked for Target. I was an executive for Target and had a bunch of stores and stuff like that. And back then, I remember a Red Bull VP from Coca-Cola came in, and he had all of his muckety mucks with him and stuff. And he was walking in one of my stores, and he said, "You need to have Red Bull on every other front register end cap in this very, very busy store." Just this one store probably did $110 million a year. And so I'm like, okay, I'm like, here's what, let me tell you now what you need to do. I'm like, you need to walk outside, look at the front of the building, and unless it says your fucking name on it, you need to come back in, and you're going to have to get on the phone with your boss and explain why in 16 stores in New England there are carts full of Red Bull going out of date code in the back rooms. And I said, or you can address the situation like an adult and not tell me how to merchandise my store. And he was like, "I am so sorry." And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Me too. I'm sorry that we had to go there." But like the I think it's really important when you're working with retailers, man. You don't know what they're up against. These are small businesses, man. Like um, you don't know if they had to pay their mortgage that month, and their credit card's not going to go through. So for me to say, "Hey, we really want to be in business with you. We appreciate all of our customers. We're a great company that delivers great customer service, but we need you to sharecrop for us by forcing this allocation down your throat." I mean, I just think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit. I mean, the first time we've ever had a purchase requirement around a SKU was with this 20th anniversary, which is limited and rare and at a higher price point. And what I don't want to do, and again, this goes back to doing it with the retailer in mind. I don't want to put a $15 SKU, or like you said in Colorado, $20. Yeah, I don't want to put a SKU that's going to cost $20 after tax on the shelf, one box next to a bunch of other Kristoff that looks the same, and not have it appear to be a priority for that store, because that's just a more expensive liability that's sitting on the
Right.
shelf without any support. So what we required purchasing 3 sizes of that, which is the only SKU that we do that with, because it's an important special project. We changed all of our branding and swag and promotional. All of our events are around this SKU. So we want to make it look like it's something that's a priority for the store. And if the store is like, man, I really just can't take 3 facings, then you know what? Like, let's work with the rep to sell out some stuff that you don't move as well, whether it be from our line or from another line. And let's get these SKUs in when you're ready, but it's going to be here for you when you need it. I'm not going to let you put a liability on the shelf and just suffer with it. Because every retailer, if you ask them, what cigar do you walk into this humidor every morning when you open up the store and you stare directly at the box and say, I still haven't sold fucking one of those cigars. Every retailer has that box that they resent. And I never want to be that box. So everything we do, from sales to operations to customer service to whatever, is to that end, to make sure we're not putting liability on people's shelf.
And the other thing too is they could get the 20th if they only have 3 facings of Kristoff or 2 facings. Like, is there a minimum facing amount for to even get the 3 facings of the venti?
No.
So like that, so they can have the Kristoffs they want, and they can have the special one, and everyone's happy. And you just ask for 3 lines in there. Now, when is my Lancero going to come out? Because I know you guys are doing one for Germany, and I just don't have them yet, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'll check. I'll check after for you and see if we have any in the US right now, and I'll try to
Oh,
see.
so that's really a thing. I just threw that out there. I didn't realize that was the thing, that it's made in that size.
Yeah, the Vengeance Lancera. Yeah, we make it. It's an exclusive size to Germany, but you know a guy. So let me see if I can't track some down for you.
Germany gets all. So I gotta ask, why? Why does Germany get? Is Germany just that much of a small ring gauge? Is the U.S. really the only big ring gauge country anymore?
No, it's everywhere. The bigger sizes work everywhere, but in I don't know, in Europe, for whatever reason, they tend to like smaller ring gauges. I don't know if it's the weather or tradition or the fact that they're used to seeing a lot of Cubans, which come out in smaller vitolas. But yeah, Germany is also our number one, our biggest international market. So they support us really well. We support them. It's a really good partnership. We've been with the same distributors for a really long time. So they get if they want a Vengeance Lancero, we're going to make them a Vengeance Lancero.
That's awesome. I got to say that it was. I'm a sucker for them, man. I truly am. And maybe it's because I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years. I don't know, but I'm a sucker for them, and I get why people don't like them, because if you're used to smoking a 60 ring gauge, you can't chong it down. Like, you gotta take your time with it. So what's new in Glenn and Jarrid's world? Where are you guys traveling to? Where can people find you at? What events, countries are you go? Because I know you travel everywhere.
Yeah. So next week, Glenn is going to be in Alabama and like kind of the Southeast. He's got some events in Birmingham, Montgomery, and Huntsville, and kind of around that area in Alabama. I'm going to be at the end of this month in California, and I've got a good event at Squires Cigars in Santa Rosa. And then I have another great event at Morgan Hill Cigar Company. And those are in kind of northern, I don't know where it is, somewhere in California, somewhere. And So I've got those events coming up, and then next month I'm in Montana, Wyoming. I have an event at the Cigar Box in Gillette, Wyoming, and then I have an event at Rocky Mountain Liquors in Helena, Montana. I get back from that, and then I go to New York, New York, New Jersey, Queensberry Cigar and Pipes 30th anniversary, some really cool events. So very, very busy this month and next month. So yeah.
So when you go to Montana, you get like the hat, the boots, the tight jeans, the big
Very,
buckle.
very unlikely. Very, very unlikely.
See, guys, this is why I love Jarrid. There's nothing but brutal honesty in how he said it. He doesn't even play along with it. He just instantly shuts it down. Like, no, it's never gonna happen. You're not gonna see the giant buckle. Like, I didn't even get like a wisp of a. Let me get a picture. He just no. It's and he lives in Texas, people. Like he's used to the big belt buckles. We got to get Jarrid a big. If anyone's got a 3D printer, I want a 3D printed Kristoff belt buckle for Jarrid.
Yeah. Take a
Reach out
picture,
to
and that'll be the only time you ever see it. Oh, that's zero. You will never see it on me in the public. Yeah.
So, how has the Texas move been? It's been a couple of years now. You've got the house, you've got the great lounge behind you, which is your office inside the house. So, how has the Texas life been? Is it been treating you good?
Yeah, we my wife and I both love it here. It's she is a like a mental health nurse for children, like children's mental health psych nurse, and she's got a really rewarding career. She does great, and I we both love it. We both love it here. It's friendly. It's warm. The DFW is a good airport to fly out of. Lots of direct flights to pretty much everywhere. It's the hub for American Airlines, so no state income tax. It's great. We like the people. We like the area. We like the weather. It's nice, and we were able to build a
25
really
cent
nice house.
25-cent cigar tax, I think it is
It's
too,
a
right?
penny. It's a
Or
penny.
penny. Is it a penny? Jesus. Yeah, I know you guys built a nice house, and I was down there in Austin. I was like, oh, I thought you were somewhere close there. You're like 4 hours from Austin.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
north of Dallas. North of Dallas.
so how has been in Dallas? Because there's a lot of manufacturers in Dallas too. There's a lot of other cigar brands. How has that been in that world in Dallas within that cigar? Because that's Texas is a hub too, and you moved from a place that wasn't a hub to kind of a hub. I mean, you have PA, you have Florida, you have Texas, you have Arizona. Those are the big cigar states. So being there, have you noticed that just is it kind of like everyone's a lot friendlier to the cigar, or is it still kind of do it in dark alleys or lounges only?
No, no. Like I came up as a rep in New England, and New England is, you know, it's a tough place to sell anything because people don't have a lot of time. They're clear communicators in the same way that I am, and they kind of don't pull any punches. So there's lots of times where I'd walk into a store and the owner would be like, "Nope, get the fuck out. I don't have time for you today. Get out of my store." And I'm like, "No, no, shh, baby, sweet, please, please, please. Like, I'm just gonna walk in the humidor and write an order. I'm just gonna walk in the humidor." And they're like, "No, get out of here. I don't have time for you." So, but in the South and in Texas, and kind of this area, it's much more relationship based. The relationship was really big in New England too, but you had to be about your business. You couldn't be a pushover, and you couldn't be an idiot. And not saying that you can get away with that here, but it's much friendlier. It doesn't seem to be as competitive between sales reps and people. When you go into a store, they want to sit down, they want to talk to you, they want to have a cigar. They aren't necessarily like, in New England I could see 8, 9, 10 stores a day. In Texas it just wouldn't be possible without the stores feeling kind of shafted by you coming in, right, trying to write an order and then leaving. So yeah, it's definitely a different environment. But I mostly, like, I've got my rep out here, Lewis, is absolutely excellent. My Texas rep has a great relationship with all the stores out here, and I'm like I said, I'm north of Dallas, but I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm over an hour from Dallas. So I keep to myself. Lewis is good enough to where he doesn't need me dabbling in the affairs of his people, and so I mostly keep to myself. I have plenty of work that I can get done at home, and it's much more effective for me to do that rather than driving around to cigar shops and stuff like that. So I see plenty of stores every year, but I try to
So
stay out.
do you shadow Lewis more than the other reps then, since he's in your backyard?
No, probably not. I mean, no, I don't. Um, Probably, I probably too little. Uh, like I- like I said, Lewis is excellent, but because I do live here, I do have really good relationships with a lot of um, the retailers out here. And when I go into a store with Lewis, if Lewis had a plan or something that he wanted to accomplish, I'm like the director of sales prevention. I go in and I'm catching up with the retail store owner, and they're like, "Oh, why don't we have lunch?" And it's like now all Lewis's plans go out the window. So it's I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to be up in his business. He's got a clearly has a plan. He's doing excellent for us, and I don't need to I don't need to be over his shoulder. Um, but what is cool about being here in Dallas is, like, just a few weeks ago, I had a dinner at my house with nine people from the DFW area that are in the cigar business came over the house, and retailers, their managers, stuff like that. So, and I was able to cook for everybody and hang out at the house and stuff. So it is cool to be able to do stuff like that and develop relationships that way. But I'm not really out in Lewis's business. I know I'm sure you wouldn't want your boss and your real job kind of going out and being in every sales call that you do. So I trust him to do a good job, and he does.
And that's really, that is the key to kind of your job. Your job is bringing in people that get the job done.
Hmm.
And part of a major part of, and most people that aren't in sales don't understand, but a good sales director, all he does is replicate himself with his team. He hires people that are either equal or better than him and turns them loose. And the more you hover, it actually makes people feel awkward, makes people nervous. It makes people get what we call commission breath, because it's like, my boss is on me. I got to get this sale. I got to get this sale. So, that's, how hard has that been in your career? Because you guys have gone through several people over the last several years. How hard is that for you to hire a specific person, a personality? Because that's what you're doing, because you have sections and regions. It's not like you have one person per state, you
Hmm.
know. So how tough is that for you to curtail a personality for an area? I don't think I would do good in New York. I'll just be honest with you. I think I would. I don't think I would like turn tail and run, but I think I'd be a little taken aback the first time. They'd be like, "What the fuck do you want, man?" Like, and I know they would lovingly. That's just how they say it. But Texas, I'd probably do a lot better.
Yeah, it's been a real learning process for me. Um, I was the first in-house sales rep for Kristoff, and
Hmm.
everybody that's worked for us since then, I've hired and trained, and
Hmm.
so I've gotten to see the good and the bad. And the problem with selling cigars is it's a really easy job to not do. You know, you're not going to an office, nobody's keeping track of your productivity. The numbers are the alpha and the omega. So a lot of times when you make a new hire, um, my philosophy has always been, if you're going to fail quickly and cheaply. um, and that's kind of the thing. So, but you can't really figure out if the rep has what it takes until it's kind of been too long. They've been out on the road seeing customers for 6 months, and you're like, man, they just cannot figure it out. And at that point, all right, now what, am I going to take another 6 months? So you try to work through whatever the gap between what they have and what they need. But earlier on in my career, I thought it was very important that I be all up in everybody's business, and I be in the stores all the time and traveling with reps, not even for events, but for just visits to see what's going on. But I realized, number one, I can manage that from not 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 doing that. I can manage it much more cost effectively for the company by keeping a closer eye on the CRM and keeping a closer eye on the reporting and stuff like that. But number two, um, hiring for the right things. Somebody could have a really dynamic sales resume and still suck. And the reason is you can't teach give a shit. You can teach everything else, but you can't teach somebody to give a shit. And I've kind of always gone by that philosophy. And so um, I try to hire people for conscientiousness. Are they going to wake up? Am I going to wake up before them and get to work before them every day? And if the answer is yes, then I don't know if they're necessarily going to be a really good fit. I need to know that when I wake up in the morning, my reps are on the road visiting stores doing what they're supposed to by their customer. And so hiring for conscientiousness, I can teach you cigars, I can teach you sales, I can teach you blends, I can teach you customer service. I cannot teach you to give a shit, no matter how hard I try. And so it's very important to me that people have that conscientiousness. And we have a good team right now that does have that.
And that is a hard thing to learn, to give a shit. That's a hard thing to hire for, right? Because everybody in an interview is always at their best. Especially
Yeah.
sales guys. That's what we do for a living. We sell
Yeah.
ourselves. But time tells, and like you said, the numbers don't lie, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And so when you guys are bringing somebody on, are they on like what is your mentality? Is it like without saying it, but in your mind, is it like 6 months and then we'll reevaluate?
Yeah, it's kind of, we touch base, you know, constantly with new hires. We put them through orientation, then I'll fly out and travel with them and visit some stores with them. I'll let them put together a route. And then once they invariably fuck that up, I'll kind of go through the routing with them, do their entire route plan in their territory for them, um, with them, and then let them just work the plan. The best thing is for people who don't have bad habits, somebody that's you know might be outside of the industry or something like that, that already doesn't think they know what's going on. Somebody that I want to hire guns. I want to be able to point the trigger at something, pull it, and they kill it. And so that's kind of what I've been looking for. And it used to be, when I started, I was 21, so, or 22. So it was like I was young and hungry and like ready to go and do it and get out there. And when they told me, oh, you can make as much money as you want, I was like, oh, fuck it. Like, I'm going to work every second that I can work. And so early in my career, when I started hiring, I started trying to hire young guys because I thought they would have the same attack that I did, and they do not. Spoiler alert. I don't know. I don't know if you've been around the last couple of years, but the younger generation, not all that impressive. So, um, the I do have some younger reps, but I've gotten away from that. I've stopped thinking that you know youth is what's going to breed results. And in reality, I need people that are conscientious. I need people that don't wake up at 10:30 in the fucking morning. I need people that just get in their car and do their job every day, and they're reliable and they value their job because they've had other jobs that weren't as good as this. So that's what I kind of look for now, is that conscientiousness and the maturity of habit to be able to just wake up and do your job.
Now you brought up two things I wanted to kind of go back on. One was that you learned you didn't have to hover. You learned you could manage everything from back home. Um, that came about via COVID, right? That mentality really kicked into full gear when you had to stay home. You had to find a way, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was an anomaly, right? Like, COVID was weird. We were selling more cigars than we've ever sold in our lives, and we were spending as little money trying to do it as we've ever spent. You know, we didn't have any austerity measures. Our reps maintained their pay and their commission and their bonuses and absolutely everything. We didn't have to do anything like that because we were selling a ton of fucking cigars. Um, and so that showed me that, okay, you know, the demand is out there, the business is out there, and there's a way that these reps can get better on the phone, and there's a way that I can manage what they're doing, even when they're not on the road as much as they should be. But even before that, just thinking about it, there's this thing in the cigar business, and I know you have seen it, where everybody that works for a cigar company thinks that they're some sort of celebrity
God.
or hero
Oh
or
yeah.
something like that. Um, I was thinking about the other day, like, if I was in Bank of America and the teller was like, and I was cashing a check, and the teller was like, "Hey, by the way, this is the VP of Bank of America," and I'd be like, "All right, fuck you, cash my check." Like, I don't care. I don't care about this guy at all. So, Glenn's a different story, right? Glenn's the owner. He's been around for 20 years, 20 plus years. He does all the blending. He does all of this cool stuff. But me, I mean, you talk to me for 5 seconds, and it's like, yeah, that guy's got the wrong accent. Like he's not. I'm a business person. If I think it's probably evident at this point in this podcast, but like
You're the
that's what I
gun.
am.
You're
I'm
the
an
gun.
operator. I'm an
You're the
operator.
gun.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
business person. So that's me doing an event. We're not going to sell double the cigars because I'm there. I'm not. You know, so there are some stores where I have really good relationships with, and I know their customers and stuff like that, and it's very important. Or if we're doing like a Corona tasting, and I can get into the weeds with the blends and the tobacco and stuff like that, that's all really cool. But like at a regular ass event, and I'm standing there in a suit jacket. I don't look like the most cuddly, warm, friendly person and I know that about myself. So um, I I I am. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to talk to customers and stuff like that. I just might not look it all the time. So whereas Glenn is exceptional at events, he has time for everybody. He talks to everybody. He's very, very approachable, and he approaches others. And so, anyways, yeah, I really envy like Glenn and all of our sales reps' ability to make that kind of like instant connection. Where it takes, as you know firsthand, Ryan, it takes a little bit more time to build that kind of connection with me. So yeah, I had kind of an epiphany even before COVID that it's like, okay, I am not the event. The rep is the event. The product is the event. Glenn is the event. The retail store and their priorities is the event. I am never going to be the event in these stores. So um, that kind of changed my shift and made it a lot easier for me to actually do the management work that I'm good at and most effective at, which is behind the scenes, keeping everybody in check and keeping the business moving.
You were the event one time though, the JT release.
Yeah, the JT signature, and still I do a ton of events. So where I'm
Well, I'm
supposed to be
saying
giving.
you legit were the event for that release. At
That's
least one
that's
time, an event did actually focus around it.
Yeah, but that was during COVID, right? We came out with the JT signature, and then COVID struck. My whole idea was, all right, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to start doing these events, and the stores that do the event with me, they're going to get to sell the JT signature and keep selling it. And then COVID hit, and I couldn't actually ever end up doing it. So I never ended up actually being able to do that. What I ended up doing instead, which is a very kind of on brand thing, is I emailed all the sales reps and I said, who do I like in your territory? Who do I like? And they sent me back a list, and I said, give them the JT. And maybe after this, we'll do an event or something like that. So that's how we ended up doing it. But the plan was to get me out there doing events. It's just not what happened because even the universe was opposed to me being the face of the events. So yeah, that's how it ended up working out.
And then you brought up another thing that I thought was very interesting that I myself have kind of prioritized when I've hired people as well. Hire outside the industry. And in my opinion, that brings in a few different opportunities. One, there's a fresh drive in somebody to learn, a good salesperson at least, to learn that product, to make that name for themselves as good as it was in the last. And you can mold them. They're
Yeah,
fresh. You're not unlearning bad habits. Um, and then there's the people like you hire in the industry that at times, you and I have talked about this. Some people in the industry can become jaded, can kind of take it for granted. I am who I am. These are all the people I know. They're going to buy everything I have. It doesn't matter what company I'm
yeah.
in. What mentality would you rather have?
What I want the reps, again, something that I've always operated on and stressed to the sales reps is you never know, especially with a company like Kristoff, where we're kind of too big to be small, too small to be big. We're kind of in a weird spot in the industry after 20 years. For a company like us, we never know who we can be important to. You know, the a lot of the really big stores do really well with our stuff. Some of them don't sell it at all. But some of our biggest customers in every market are stores that might do very little, you know, with some of the bigger companies, and do a ton with us and really support us and get behind it. So if you only treat the big accounts as if they can be a big account, that's what you're going to get, and you're going to end up chasing your tail. But if you treat everybody like they could be a big account, you never know who's going to kind of shape up. So I think it's important, no matter what the size of the store is, you never know who you can be important to. And taking that kind of approach and having reps that don't think they know who the players are and who they can play ball with, having reps that don't think they know everything about how the product can move is really important. So I have a really good mix right now. Like the guy who won my sales rep of the year this year, Kevin Hashey, he's really good. He works in the Chicagoland area. He's been with us for 7 or 8 years or something like that. And he used to test building supplies for asbestos at a biology lab. He was like a biologist. And this was his first sales job, his first job in the cigar business, and he fucking kills it every year. He's one of my most consistent players. And then we have other reps like Jason Robnett, who's a cigar industry veteran. He's been around for 9+ years, tons of experience, very well liked in the territory, but he has that thing that I was talking about where he gives a shit. He really cares about his customers. He cares about the product. He cares about the business. And he had that give a shit that didn't need to get taught to him. So you couple that factor, the conscientiousness, with the idea of like somebody who already knows the market, already knows the customers, already has a good relationship. And that could be really powerful too. So you just got to, if you're going to hire inside the industry, you got to hire the right person that has the right relationships that can cost justify themselves immediately. If you hire outside the industry, it's going to be a slower warm up, but once they get going, they hopefully take on the habits that you want them to have. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're able to mold one, and one's more kind of on autopilot.
Yeah.
What's next for you with Kristoff? And what I mean by that is, where do you go from, like, eventually? Eventually you're probably going to replace yourself and move up, right? Like, where is your ambitions within Kristoff?
Yeah, I mean,
Better wise.
yeah. Well, I can't really get promoted, right? So I work directly for Glenn. It's me as the EVP who manages the sell side of the business. Ward Hall, who's fucking outstanding at his job. He's the COO. He's worked there just as long as me. We came on the same year. And then it's the reps, the sales reps. Below that, we have a really tight, cogent team. Everybody has their work center between Glenn with the creative side, some of the financial management and the blending, and Glenn's the product guy. I'm the sales guy. Ward's the operations guy. And I would rather have fewer high functioning people than more nitwits to amortize work across. So until it becomes untenable for Ward, Glenn, and I to manage the business, I don't see a need really to backfill myself. I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of work to do. I have an extreme amount of accountability in that every single dollar that comes into the business, I have to be at some point responsible for. But I'm not overwhelmed by the amount of responsibility that I have. When that becomes a thing, or when Ward or when Glenn needs help in their work centers, maybe then we would consider scaling the management team. But, how we grew was I was the first in-house sales rep. My territory made enough to pay for the second one. The two of us took half as long to pay for the third one. The three of us took a quarter as long. You know what I mean? So we did everything cost justifiably. And until I kind of Peter Principle myself and reach the level of my own incompetence, I don't think that there's any need to kind of fill people in. And one of the other things, Ryan, like, is one of the questions that I like to ask the sales reps at least every year is, what are you really good at that you're passionate about that you don't do for us,
Yes.
that you would like to? So we have some guys that are really good at social media. So, okay, why don't you run the social media for the Kristoff page? Or some people that like press releases. And so, okay, yeah, they were a copywriter or they like stuff like that. Why don't you do the press releases for us? Or some people who are perennially in all these podcast chat rooms and stuff like that, reps and are social media people, right? Why don't you liaise with and send out press releases and stuff to the bloggers and media kits and stuff like that? So all those things, it's getting the most out of your team, the most utility, so that it all doesn't pile on one person.
Well, at this point in time, I mean, Kristoff's your baby too. Like,
Oh,
I mean, the
I feel
reality of it
very,
is,
very accountable to it. Yeah.
like, you didn't start it, but you certainly fucking put it where it is. And you were the first in house. You grew it because of you. Another was able to come on. So the reality of it is it is your baby, right?
I feel I feel very much a sense of ownership within the business, and that's to Glenn's credit. I mean, he's always kind of given us an almost like an unlimited amount of leash. If we see a project that we really want to sink our teeth into, Glenn has never done anything but enable us to tackle that. So it's really to his credit that we've been able to grow and develop into the people that we are today, and that's our whole team. So yeah, to your point, I really do feel like it's I feel very, very responsible and accountable to the results. I feel very accountable to my people, whether that be in the Dominican Republic or here in the United States or in any of the other 50 something countries we do business with. So yeah, I do feel that sense of ownership for sure.
So if given the opportunity, because again, you're a very young guy, um, to have the position you have in a company like this, and you busted your ass to prove that you can do it. Clearly, you can. Um, if given the opportunity, if Glenn turned around and said, "I'm backing out in 5 years," you want it?
Oh yeah, for
Would
sure.
you say you would say yes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is what I'm doing what I want to be doing, you know. Um, like you said, I'm a young guy. I've got uh, a good solid background, whether it be in the corporate world or now doing this, which is much more entrepreneurial. Um, if if I wanted to do other stuff, I could go and do other stuff, but I don't. I want to do this. I love it. I love my job. I love the company I work for. I love the people I work with. So I
You're
don't.
hyper loyal.
Yeah, and I'm super loyal. Yeah, I've certainly had other opportunities come across my
I'm
plate,
sure.
and I've never really um, looked at any of them particularly hard because um, I want to feel I want to feel the impact of what I'm doing, and Christoph gives me opportunity to do that.
Now, what does that mean? Because kids are, I say kids. I'm 39. Um, in our age group, the average lifespan is in a company is usually 3 to 5 years,
Yes.
and then they move on to something else. What does that mean for you as somebody that we really don't see the 20 and 30 year, 40 year staying at jobs? I have buddies that in their 20s have gone through 7, 8 jobs in their 20s, all good jobs. They all have made good money, but they're always looking for the next thing. They're always looking for the next. How do you keep your drive to where it doesn't get that I want to buy a new house? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Um, it's because what those people are looking for is an opportunity to turn chicken shit into chicken salad, and I I get to do that every fucking day. I get to do that every day. I had a chance when I was in the corporate world. I had a good job. I was making a lot of money, and when Glenn came to me and said, "Hey, I can pay you," it was a big pay cut for me to go and become a sales rep for Christoph with no experience. And I already did that. I already had my midlife crisis. I just had it over a decade ago. Like I already was like, I already had the chance to jump into something. And Glenn said from the very beginning, if you show me that this works, I will let you develop and develop this team and grow your side of the business. And that is what he has done. He has done everything he's ever said he was going to do for me. So what would I go and do that would be give me that same sense of spirit, that same entrepreneurial kind of aspect to it, where I would have the same dexterity within the organization to accomplish the goals that I have. I don't think that there's really anywhere that would be able to give that to me besides for Glenn and what he's done. So I and also having hired and trained and seen reps go to other companies and
Grass isn't
based
always greener.
it's not. It really isn't. If you have a good quality of life and you have a company full of people that give a shit, it's not going to be better somewhere else. And also, a couple grand is not going to change your life. And I'm fortunate now, having come up in this business with one company where, even the big guys, they can't afford to pay me. So it's I'm really blessed in the position that I have. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. And yeah, I don't know that I'd want to do something different.
So, I mean, you've done a lot. You've done more in most than most I know at your age. You're running an entire sales team. You're running multi-international sales teams at this point across 56 different countries. You have to do that. At what point do you just go, I don't want to do this today? What drives you when you're just like, I don't want to fucking do this? I just want to stay in bed till 10:30 like the rep I don't want to hire. Like I just don't want to do this. Like there's got to be that moment that has come for you. How have you gotten past that and just not called Glenn and been like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore?
It's a lot of those moments that when that moment does happen, it's weeks like this week where I've spent 15 hours in Zoom calls or Teams calls, and my social battery is entirely depleted, and I'm like, oh, I know when I wake up tomorrow, I have 12 o'clock Teams call, a 1 o'clock Zoom call. I know I've got a staff training that I have to do over here. Like, so those kind of days where you're like, okay, I've really gone through it this week. Those days are few and far between relative to the days where I wake up and I get a call from a sales rep. Hey, I'm working on this order and this thing is coming up and we're trying to problem solve it and stuff like that. It's the number of what's cool about sales in this industry is every single day we're writing orders. Every single day my reps are seeing 4 or 5 stores. And every single day, a new, dynamic, interesting, weird, shitty situation comes up that I get to help my salespeople navigate through, or I get to help a small business person navigate through. And that makes it so that you really can't be off your game. I have to show up for my team every single day. And because if I don't, if I shit the bed and things slip, it gets untenable, it gets out of hand. And now we're trying to bail ourselves out. And then the reps are frustrated. They're not making as much money. They're not going to bonus. They're not, you know what I mean? And then maybe they look for another job. Then I got to hire and replace somebody. That's going to be my fucking nightmare for the next 6 months. But you know what I mean? So if I don't show up, my quality of life is dramatically worse. So I have found that it is worth kind of embracing the suck sometimes and just doing the work to get to the other side, because it's always tears now, smiles late. So that's kind of the thing. Plus there's a lot of people that depend on me being effective. The sales reps, Glenn, Ward, the people in the Dominican Republic, 200 something people down there, depend on me being effective at my job and their jobs and their livelihoods and their families. So yeah, I kind of don't have a chance. I kind of don't have an option to not be effective.
How long into your sales director spot, EVP spot, where that kind of all felt weighted on you and you kind of had to, because the way you just went through that allows me to know that you've meticulously thought out, because not only did you go down things that you didn't do, you went down avenues that if you don't do XYZ happens then. So like I can tell, again, knowing you as a business person, you're always 3, 4 steps in the thought process anyways. So at what point in time were you an EVP where you felt that weight, and for that first time you had to get through that? How did you, does that make sense? How did
Yeah,
you get through that? Because you,
it was
again,
COVID. It
okay,
was during COVID. Um, you know, the like during COVID, the sky was falling. We didn't know, they were doing PPP loans. We didn't know if our business was going to implode. The Dominican Republic had not only capacity restrictions and restricted hours, but also a curfew. So we couldn't even do shift work and or anything like that. And we didn't know how we would come out the end of it. And it was at that time, hearing the stories from the factory in the Dominican Republic and how difficult it was to maintain any amount of production, not to mention what we needed. And then hearing the stories from small business owners and our retail customers that were like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I have bills to pay. I've got my family depends on this store. Hearing their stories and how they got creative and tried to power through, I looked around, and then my reps who were like, what's going to happen? We had more than one Zoom call where they were like, Jarrid, what is going to happen? Like, are we going to be okay through this whole thing? And I had to like look at them and be like, I think so, but like, I don't know as much as you do. You look in your email and fucking Sunglass Hut was giving you advice on how to survive a global pandemic. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, how do any of these businesses know? So we just had to be really realistic about it. But the weight of responsibility, I really started feeling it at the beginning of COVID when I was like, oh my God, like, if we don't come up with a way to navigate this situation and maintain all of our employees and maintain sales and keep things going well, then there's a lot of people whose livelihoods are at risk here. Least important of which was mine. So it was like, it was really stressful. That was the first time I really felt the weight. And I've tried to maintain that attitude and like
sure.
appreciation of everybody that works for us since then. And we all do. It's the culture that Glenn sets, it's the culture Ward sets. It's we all try to appreciate what we have and everybody that works with us.
So when you feel that, obviously Glenn means a ton to you. I think it's a fair safe to say that Glenn's very much kind of a fatherly esque figure for you in the sense of how much you respect him and look up to him, and go with his guidance on certain aspects. So how much during that time did you lean on Glenn for, because you never gripe downhill. You always kind of gripe up, meaning, hey, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. How much was Glenn that for you, or did you internalize a lot of that and just kind of keep that inside and fight through it?
Yeah, if the next time we get a chance to talk to Glenn, I am not a griper. I
I know.
Yeah, I don't. I just kind of do my job and figure it out. And I don't have fortunately, knock on everything, I don't have a lot of bad days where I'm like, fuck, like I'm really going through it right now. I don't. So, but during COVID, we were on Zoom calls with the team every week. Um, we tried to get better. We tried to keep everybody engaged. We did this thing with all the sales reps during COVID where we would have each one of them week after week. One rep would take a turn inviting one of their best or most interesting customers to our team Zoom call. And we would get to ask their retailer a lot of questions and, what are your best, that's a good idea. The selling cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
That's a good
great.
idea. Yeah. But we had different retailers come on and talk about stuff and give us advice and tell us what they were going through. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really a griper. Want to, I just kind of want to do my job.
So that's a huge attribute too. You took it on, and instead of necessarily going and venting, you just got it done. And that probably during that time you learned a lot about yourself as far as how you actually operate when a real shit hits the fan situation, right? Everybody's always like, oh, I'm going to do this if somebody breaks into my house. They're going in a body bag. I practice. I carry a gun everywhere. Everyone always asks me, could you actually shoot somebody if you had to? I say, yeah, but I'd probably need therapy. I don't know what I would do in that situation. Did you learn a lot about yourself in a business wise or a business acumen wise during that time period where you were like, I can't believe I actually pulled this off. I did this without asking for help. I was able to navigate this.
We had a really bad run of things. Like COVID obviously was really good for us financially. We grew. We had a good sales year that year, especially from a financial accounting standpoint. But right after that, Glenn got into his motorcycle accident, which produced
Mhm.
the
Hard
guardrail.
no.
And Glenn was in a coma. I mean, he was in a wheelchair for months and months, and for probably 6 months, there wasn't a Glenn to go to. You know, it was me and Ward had to get really smart, really fast, and make sure that nothing slipped by the wayside. And doing that while not allowing any of our reps to tell any of their customers. My thing in the beginning was I told all the reps, I said, if one of your customers texts me and asks me about Glenn and how he's doing, I'm like, I'm going to fire you. I'm like, I don't care if you told them. I don't care if somebody else told them. If it comes from your market, you're dead. And because I didn't want people blowing up Glenn and calling him, I didn't want the story on the streets to be, Glenn from Kristoff almost loses his life in a horrific motorcycle crash. And the company, is kind of floundering or kind of floating around. So nobody knew until Glenn came out with the guardrail and started telling the story. People were like, that happened? And we're like, yeah. And they were like, how did I not hear about this? There was no article on Half Wheel. There was no article from any of you muckety mucks. There was nothing. We kept it off the streets, and it was business as usual. And we were able to maintain and grow that year in spite of what was against us. So we came from COVID, where Ward and I and Glenn had to get really, really smart and figure out how to manage the business in a different way. And then right after that, it was like, boom, Glenn, who guides a lot of the direction that we're seeing, and especially around new product and stuff like that, and financial management, we didn't have him there for us. So that was our time where Ward and I really had to be there for him. And we took it really seriously, and the company came out even stronger. So that's where that kind of level of trust between all of us comes in, because we've all been there when the other one needed it, and we've all kind of stepped up. So, and the team stepped up huge during that time period too. So, just like I said, really, really fortunate to have the people around us that we do.
Very fortunate that Glenn came out as well as he did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he definitely did come out unscathed, but he came out well.
Mm-hmm.
The industry just lost a really big voice several months back with the loss of Bradley Reith over at Seal Cigars due to a motorcycle accident. So have you and Ward been like, done? No more motorcycles. It's over. You're not doing it. You're too
Oh,
valuable.
oh yeah, yeah. We didn't have to do that. Glenn's wife Terry did that for us. I think I think Glenn's wife was the first one to tell him you are forbidden from doing this ever again. So yeah, no, that's that the motorcycle chapter I think is over.
Well, that's good. I'd like to use the last little bit here. What does Jarrid do to unwind? What is because you do work so much. I mean, I call you and I'm in a meeting, or let me get back to you, and you're traveling a lot. You are around a lot. And you look at your Facebook, you do travel quite a bit out of the country. So how do you find a little bit of sanctuary for you, either when you're traveling or out of the country?
Um, I read a lot. Um, I have the right this room behind me, which can't really see, but is like a cigar lounge, theater room kind of thing with its own HVAC system and everything. And this is right in the middle of my house. So I'll come in here, I'll read, I'll watch TV. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of just relax. I have a gym in the house, so I'll go use that. I'm pretty regimented in what I do. So yeah, I don't really struggle to relax too much.
Are
It's
you a car guy? Like, what's your hobbies? Are you a gamer? I can't see you being a gamer.
not really, you know.
Are you fishing, guns?
No.
Like what is your
I'm into
outdoor?
Yeah, I do like guns. I used to shoot sporting clays and tournaments and stuff like that back when I lived on the East Coast. I haven't really gotten into it too much here in Texas. But I do have a lot of guns.
He's got a
And
howitzer in his backyard. You
yeah.
break into
Um
it.
I like you. I think it's probably your fault with the fucking bacon that I've gotten into smoking. I just right before I was coming on the show, I was smoking some wings for dinner. I've got a couple of buddies coming over a little bit later. So yeah, I've gotten into that a little bit, but mostly I read and I like, you know, get like watch YouTube and uh, stuff like that, like pretty
What do you read?
standard stuff. Um, I like reading. I don't know. I got some stuff next to me here.
Are you fiction,
No,
nonfiction?
no. I'm mostly nonfiction. I like strategy. I like history. I like military stuff, and then I like interesting nonfiction, like about stuff that's happened in the past. Like some of Eric Larson stuff, Devil in the White City, Into the Garden of Beasts, stuff like that.
But
Um,
you're not like a sci-fi book
no,
reader,
no,
anything along those lines.
nope, not really.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain Gourmet Bacon for the way to turn him into smoking food. I tell you what,
For real.
first time he
No,
ordered that, he calls me, goes, "What the fuck am I gonna do with all this bacon?"
yeah, my wife said that. I come back from the mail and I open it and I'm like, it was 10 pounds back then. That's the
Mm.
minimum order quantity or whatever. And I had 10 pounds of bacon. She's like, why did you buy this much bacon? We don't even eat that much bacon. And I'm like, because it's supposed to be really good and I'm trying to support a friend's business. And so then I made some for her. I'm like, just eat it. And so I put some right out of the 10-pound package. I put some into a pan and I gave it to her, and she's like, "We can never go back. Like this is the bacon we eat now." So almost every Saturday, I take a pack that I portioned out and thaw it, and we make some bacon and eggs and stuff for my wife and I.
You know what? That makes me feel really good. In fact, I had Abe DeBabda's daughter uh last year, not this previous Great Smoke, but last year, 2023 Great Smoke, come up to me and go, "I can't even look at store-bought bacon." So I was like, "All right, I'm sending you some." I wasn't able to send her, so I brought that. I thought I thought it was going to be like the King of the Hill Thanksgiving episode where they all get on the plane, the dog sniffs the bag, and the whole plane. Like, I brought 15 pounds of bacon on the plane with me in my luggage. I thought for sure it was going to get flagged by a dog for something. And I showed up and I gave it to her and I told her, I'm like, "This is not for Abe or your mom. This is for you." Abe told me she broke it down and put her name all over it to do not touch.
Yeah, it
So
really is that good. It really is that good.
I appreciate that. We have a question here. This is what I was going to ask you too, because I love sales books. I'm a geek, right? Like, I like reading books that improve me, that make me better in my craft. And I've been in sales for 20 years. It's a part of literally who I am. What books do you read that are most helpful for you and what you do? And I don't know Linconi. I don't know that one. But maybe you do.
Um, Yeah, the Lencioni stuff is like dysfunctions of team and stuff like that. They like say it's like a one of those seminal kind of sales sets or business operation sets. I have read their stuff and I really like it. It helps a lot with organizational dynamics and stuff. But a lot of the stuff that I try to focus on is like um, sales type books that struggle with questions around um, like how to better connect with people and how to kind of show people the light in a conversation, right? Not like, I'm not talking about Wolf of Wall Street, like straight
Yeah.
line selling Jordan Belfort shit. I'm talking about like Robert Greene, like the Laws of Power, or um, there's another book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is written by, man, I got to look it up actually. Um, it's written by a former software executive who worked for like Microsoft and all these different companies as they were coming up and saw the problems they had scaling and things like that. And it's really, really well written and really good. Um, the other, obviously, the stuff like how to get a yes and negotiation and stuff like that, I really like. It's
Have you
by
read
Ben
Spin Selling?
Horowitz. Huh?
Have you read Spin Selling?
No. No, I haven't. Um, but most of the stuff is about that I want to read about is like human nature stuff. Like, how do you better connect with people and find out what they really want, and kind of position yourself in a way where you're giving it to them.
So not the hard selling, but more of the relationship selling.
No, no, yeah, not really. Yeah, not even. It's not even really like a lot of the stuff I read, like the Laws of Power, like the Robert Greene stuff, which is one that I have probably given 25 copies of this book to new salespeople or people that get promoted at a company and are trying to figure out how to navigate the organization and stuff like that. That's a book that I've probably given to, like I said, I probably bought it 25, 26 times to give to people. But it's more about understanding people and how you can help them.
So what do you would you hire somebody new on? And I've had managers do this, obviously not like required, but I've had managers at the level I'm at now, obviously when I like retail, they're not going to do this, but where they'll give you books and say, hey, it's not mandatory, but I recommend you read X, Y, and Z, or at a minimum these chapters. Is that kind of what you do in your training? Do you, because you had just said you give out 25 books, so like do you give stuff out to your salespeople and encourage them to read, or a reading list or something like that?
This year, what's interesting is and that this is definitely a flaw that I have, is I don't really spend too much time, like I don't know the personal lives of a lot of my salespeople. I kind of keep it. I don't know. It's just something I never really ask a lot of personal questions. I'm pretty much straight to the point with a lot of the conversations that I have. So this year, when we were in the Dominican Republic and we were doing our national sales meeting, I got to talking to people, and somehow reading came up, and I was really surprised to hear how many of them do read or were interested in recommendations. So for Christmas this year, I bought all the sales reps some of that kind of stuff, some books, and sent it out to them. And some of the feedback, some of them were like, this is like more, I'm learning more about you from some of these recommendations than I am about whatever the point of the book was. But yeah, it was so yeah, I was surprised to find out that a lot of the reps were interested in stuff like that. So it's something I'd like to continue to do, but talk about some of these things a little bit more.
So what's an activity that you and your wife love to do together?
She really loves travel. Um,
I know,
and
I see your Facebook page.
Yeah. And I like traveling. I like traveling too, but sometimes, when you do it so often, like what I want to do is stare at a wall and not talk to anybody. Like when I get back from a trip. But she's been home all week, because she's home every night and stuff like that. So she wants to get out of the house and go travel and stuff like that. So we've had some really good trips. Like just this year, we have some really good friends in the Dominican Republic, and we flew down there and went to not like Punta Cana or Puerto Plata or anything like that. We went to a very rural part of the country that is not particularly touristy, but it had beautiful beaches, and stayed in an Airbnb with our friends that lived down there, and had a nice time. So we like that. Before the wildfires and everything, Marissa and I used to go to Maui every year. and we really liked it there. So we've got a couple things, but yeah, it's I'm hard pressed when I just get back from a hard month of travel to want to unwind by getting back on a plane. So a lot of what she and I have, do is around the house. I'll cook. We'll watch movies. We'll make a list of stuff that we, stuff like that. Just kind of normal kind of stuff.
What what is something that your wife brings out in you that you were surprised that somebody could bring out in?
Um,
Go real retrospective here, Jarrid.
yeah, geez, that's a good question. Um, I don't, yeah, I don't know. She's really the fortunate thing for her and for our relationship is that she's a psych nurse. So
So she gets crazy.
yeah, she she doesn't treat me like a zoo creature or something like that when I'm counting stuff or doing weird shit. So that's good. But I'm also obviously I'm never more comfortable than when I'm at home with her and when we're hanging out. And she's done a really good job at um, she brings me back down to earth. Like when she'll say something to me, she'll be like, you know, this is what, I'm feeling about this situation or whatever. And I'll be like, oh, well, you're directionally correct, but blah, blah, blah. And she'll be like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, did you just tell me I'm directionally correct? And I'm like, she's like, I don't know who you think you're talking to. But so she brings me back down to earth and kind of makes me a little bit less of a weird robot guy. So yeah, she's good at that. I didn't expect her to do that. She does.
What's one thing that you have learned about yourself being married? Because
Um,
marriage changes the dynamic.
yeah. Um, I think I realized how much work I need to do on myself and things like that to I have matured so much being in such a good relationship for so long, um, that I've really realized like I am like so much more balanced, so much more level headed, so much less kind of like cutthroat than I traditionally had been earlier on in my career, and especially when I was single. And um, her being able to teach me to, sit back and relax, and everything's going to be fine, and you don't need to be sending emails at 2:30 in the morning and stuff like that. Like that's been really helpful, and really good. I learned that about myself that it's better overall if I turn off than if I just keep going.
Have you ever bounced a business idea off of your wife for solid advice?
Stuff within the company.
It doesn't matter. Just a business idea, whether it be a marketing strategy, a thought, a process. Have you ever done that? And have has have you followed that advice or
Yeah,
taken that advice?
yeah. She unsurprisingly, she's the first one to hear about a lot of stuff going on with the business, with Kristoff, with whatever. So very often I'll say something to her like, "Ah, this is a problem I'm dealing with. I'm trying to think," and she's like, "Why don't you just blank?" And I'm like, "Ugh, duh." Like that is such a good idea, or like with cigars or different projects or branding or marketing stuff. Like she very often will just have that one little like, I know I don't know what I'm talking about, but what if you just blank? And it's like, oh, that's brilliant. So yeah, it happens pretty often. And Glenn does the same thing with Terry, his wife, who came from the cigar business and has experience in it. And he'll a lot of almost it's so collaborative, like between all of us, So yeah, that happens pretty often, and you feel like a total idiot because you're like, oh, man, why didn't I think of that?
But I ask these questions to show anybody that's watching this that not everybody can do it themselves. As much as Jarrid's the business mindset, Glenn's the business mindset, it's always good to ask advice to other people. And it's how you take that advice and process that advice that determines if that advice was in fact valuable to whatever it is you were asking about. And I think far too often business guys in smaller, medium-sized companies try to go at it on their own. And that's why I asked some of the questions I did tonight, is because it's you started so young in this, you got elevated to EVP spot, and again, you're still a very young guy, and it's interesting to kind of hear you talk about your path and how you solve things, because you've had the ability to have great mentors in your life with Glenn and Ward, and you being mentors to your people and everything else. And it's really a give and pull. And that's really what makes a successful business successful. It's never one person. It's a collaboration of ideas within that company that are valuable, that can get pulled off and work. So if somebody was to come to you and say, "Hey, listen, I want to start a cigar company." I Now the
Don't.
reality is, I know what you would say.
Yeah,
But if
don't.
somebody would came to you and said, "I have X amount of money, I can do it, I've got the funding," what are some of the pathways that you would say for them to take, or give an advice on?
For any business, the first piece of advice is do as much as you can yourself as you possibly can. You know, every dollar that you don't outlay, in the cigar business, we work on keystone margins. Everybody knows that. So I got to sell, for me to make $1, I got to sell $2. So it's much, much easier if you can do it yourself for as long as you can do it and guide that direction yourself. And then when you decide to scale, it has to be cost justified. And once it's cost justified, that person's only job is to pay for themselves. They have to look at it that way. You have to justify your existence in every action, in every sales call, in every interaction that you have every day. So, number one, do as much as you can alone until you can't anymore. Then, when you can, find somebody that's willing to sing for their supper and pay for themselves. And then, if you find the right person, get out of their way and let them do what they think needs to be done. But most importantly, is a lot of people who start a business or a cigar company, they build a whole city before anybody wants to fucking live there. And and we've seen it fail every time it's been done in the cigar business, every time. And it just never works. So do the work yourself, understand the job that you're hiring for, and then hire for it.
You brought up a really good point. A lot of people hire family.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it's hard to let family go when they don't justify their own cost. And as being in sales, as long as we both have, the one thing we always have to do is justify our job.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let. I always tell people the biggest piece of advice to give somebody on starting a business: don't hire your family, because it's very hard to get rid of them when they suck. And family is the only group in your life that will take advantage of you the most, majority of the time, without they'll sleep until 10, because it's my brother, it's this, it's that. So in closing here, what are your favorite go-to Kristoff cigars as of today? And what is a non-Kristoff cigar, if you want to give it, that you are enjoying as well?
I smoke some of my favorite Kristoff cigars. The 20th anniversary, I smoke a lot of. The Tres Compadres, I smoke a lot of. The New Nicaragua, I smoke a lot of. That just really hits my palate.
It's so good.
And then the Connecticut and this is my next one up here. This is the premium selection, the bundle cigars that we make. It's mild, it's easy to smoke, it's inexpensive, and it does really, really well at retail for the stores that do carry it. So those are probably my favorites. And for non-Kristoff, my my go-to non-Kristoff since before I was in the cigar business has been I smoke Padron 64 Diplomatico Maduros. That's what I like. I like that size. I like that cigar. That's what I like.
You inhale that one too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I've
That's
I've
a
always
strong
smoked that
one.
cigar. Yeah, I've always
That
smoked that
that's a
cigar.
that's a good cigar. What are your go-to pairings so far for the year? What are you into drink wise? Rums, bourbon, scotches? Where do you find yourself this year?
Bourbon, it's been a lot of bourbon for me. I'm really fortunate to have an excellent customer here in Texas called Specs, and they have like I don't know 200 liquor stores here in Texas, and I've got a staff training with 30 of their humidor managers. They have walk-in humidors in all the stores. I have a staff training with 30 of their humidor managers next month coming up. And I've got some really good relationships with the management there at Specs. And as a result, I've been able to get some really, really solid bourbon that I can drink on a pretty regular basis. So that's kind of what I've been into this year.
What would cause you to walk into a cigar shop and walk right out?
Um, nobody, nobody at the counter, um, or bad, like the humidor is unkempt, uh, either too humid or not humid enough. Like it doesn't have to be like full Goldilocks, but man, if you're running a cigar store and you don't give a shit about the cigars, then what do you give a shit about? So that's one of the biggest red flags for me is if you go into a cigar store and the windows are dripping and the cigars have uh, you know growths all
Condensation?
over them, and yeah, the cellophane is all cloudy, and it's like, all right, you guys clearly this is the one thing you got to pay attention to, and you haven't. So that's probably the thing that would get me to turn around. Just either bad customer service or bad care for the product.
Have you ever in your career with Kristoff so far has had to pull your brand from a shop because it didn't represent you in the right way? Don't give the name, of course.
Yep. Yep.
And what was one of the major reasons that you had an issue with?
Um, well, there have been online retailers that do tons and tons of business um, that have violated our price protection agreement. I mean, look, 80% of our accounts are brick and mortar, and
Yep.
or probably even more at this point. And I've had, Christoph's going to be pissed off about this deal, uh, and I see the email and I'm like, what the fuck? And then you call them and they say, oh, I was at the dentist this Friday and I couldn't approve the ad. It's like, oh, really? Like you didn't have any idea that you guys were doing it? Like, come on. And so there have been big like accounts that we do hundreds of thousands of dollars with that we've cut off for a year or for longer until we were sure that they would be in compliance because we do not want our brick and mortar stores having to compete unfairly online. So we've done that and taken huge and the conversations where I'm like, hey, by the way, we're not doing business with this person right now. And Glenn's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, well, we got it. And obviously he understands and stuff like that, at the end of it. But yeah, we've got to protect our core retail product. And so there's been several opportunities where that's been the case. And then stores, like I said, that don't take care of the product, that generate more complaints and concerns than they generate any sort of opportunity for growth. It's not worth it. Nobody gets paid enough to deal with people that mistreat our sales reps. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. If you mistreat my salespeople, nobody gets paid enough to deal with that. If they call me and they tell me you're not going to believe what this guy just said to me or just did with our product or whatever, I showed up and we were supposed to do an event and they had 4 boxes because they never placed the order they were supposed to place or never took it out, like all those things. It's like, you don't have time. You can't play good cards against bad players. Get the fuck out of there. Get out of this store. Like, so yeah, it's been a lot of times where we've had to kind of make addition by subtraction decisions.
But that shows every other retailer that's doing the right thing that you guys care.
Yeah.
And that shows the retailers that you stand behind them, because, you guys like Micallef and several others are really, really centered around brick and mortar. So here in the closing question, do you think cigars could last without brick and mortar? And why or why not?
No, no, I don't think so, because the thing about cigars is the culture and community around it is so important to the enjoying of the product. A lot of times it's a little $10 vacation, right, from the rest of your day, and you go to a lounge and you sit down and smoke and stuff like that. So I think cigars can be sold. I think some cigars would be sold, but it would certainly not be anything near to what it is today without the culture and community and information and education that brick and mortar retailers provide. So no, I don't think that the business would exist in the way it does without them.
I absolutely agree with you. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a lounge and had a cigar I've never had before, talked with somebody that gave me great advice, or just had a great conversation, met new friends. And that's really what cigars is. Cigars is not a solo thing. Cigars is a social smoking. Yes, there are those that, like us, that do smoke regardless, but the vast majority of the cigar world is a community smoking group. Um, so here in closing, tell everybody why to choose Kristoff if they haven't yet, and let everybody know where to find your stuff. You have a store locator on your website they can go to. So why Kristoff if they're in the humidor searching?
Because the biggest reason why I would choose Christoph in a humidor is because we spend almost all of our energy trying to be the kind of people want to do business with. Whether that's to our retail customers who support us, or the consumers that actually buy the cigars one by one. Quality are written on our factory walls, and kind of our mantra from the beginning is quality, consistency, availability. And all three of those things are the things that are most important to the cigar consumer. And those are our priorities. And they always have been. So when you buy a Christoph, we have something, as Ryan was saying, we have something for everybody. We have a ton of different lines. But when you buy a Christoph, you can be sure it's been draw tested before it left the factory. It's going to be consistent with the last thing that you did. And it's going to be in the stores. We meet you guys where you are. We're out there. We have sales reps in every part of the country, and in, like I said, 56 other countries. So it is a quality, consistent, available product. There are some cigars that are best enjoyed with a whiskey and a tufted leather chair, wearing an Armani suit, just not ours. We're the kind of cigar that everybody can walk in and grab and enjoy and not feel beat out of their money. And we stand behind it, and we're really proud of it. And we're, a family business that cares about its people, and kind of keeps moving in the right direction. And we've been blessed to have some great growth. And you can find us. We just redid our website, Kristoff Cigar, or Kristoff.com. And you can find us on Instagram, Kristoff Cigars, and Kristoff Cigars on Facebook, and kind of all the standard things. And we post every day on all the social media stuff, and we'd love it if you gave us a try and checked us out.
If you have an issue, Jarrid's cell phone number's in the description below. Give him a
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
Right?
You joke, dude. I just had a customer message me on Facebook about a box of Vengeance he had where the draw was too tight, and he sent me pictures and stuff. And he just messaged me today. I sent him out some swag, Kristoff swag and stuff. He's like, I probably bought 20 boxes of these, the first couple that I've had that went wrong, and we made it right immediately. So it happens all the time. Whether you reach out to me or any of our salespeople or our office, we stand by the product.
That says a lot right there, everyone. They're not a product that's just thrown out there on the shelves, and your money is not taken for granted when you go with a Kristoff cigar. Your clientele, you're smoking their cigars, you're posting their pictures. It's all very much appreciated, and they certainly put a lot of time and effort into making those $10 to $15 vacations if you want to go with a new venti, an absolutely fantastic hour and a half, 2 hours of your life, or put it down, make it 3 hours. And then if you loved it, turn around and have another little vacation. I guarantee you Kristoff won't mind if you take 2 vacations. So thank you, everybody, very much for watching another live show here at the Smoking Studios on the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. Big shout out to all the sponsors that make this show happen. Obviously, Kristoff being one of them, BAMF Cigars, ROCF Cigars, Sagrado, Micallef, Big Sky Cigars, Cornell and Diehl Pipe Tobacco, La Aurora, West Tampa Tobacco Company, Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, as well as Axe in the Oak Bourbon is the official bourbon of the show. And thank you as well to Abe for sponsoring the show and allowing me to call it the Smoking Studios. So until we see you all again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great, great rest of your week. Jump on eventbrite.com. Check out Rocky Mountain Cigar Night. See you there. Take care. Bye, everyone.